There are words that build your life, and there are words that quietly tear it down piece by piece, often without you even noticing it happening. Most people move through their day speaking freely, casually reacting to situations, repeating what they feel, echoing what they hear, and agreeing with what they see. But what they fail to understand is that their words are not neutral. Every word carries direction. Every statement releases something into motion. What you consistently say is shaping what you consistently experience. Your life today is, in many ways, a reflection of what you have been saying yesterday. You may think your words are small, but they are not small in effect. Words are containers. They carry belief, expectation, and direction. When you speak, you are not just communicating, you are confirming something. You are aligning yourself with either limitation or possibility, with either defeat or progress. That is why careless speech becomes dangerous over time. It may feel harmless in the moment, but repeated long enough, it begins to establish a pattern, and that pattern becomes a reality you start living in. Consider how often people say things like, "I'm always tired," "Nothing ever works out for me," or "I can't do this." These phrases are spoken so casually that they seem insignificant, yet they are powerful confessions. When repeated daily, they begin to program the mind, influence decisions, and shape expectations. Eventually, the person starts living in alignment with those words, not because it was destined, but because it was declared again and again until it felt true. There is a connection between what you believe and what you say, but there is also a powerful connection between what you say and what you begin to believe. Many people are waiting to feel confident before they speak confidently, but it often works the other way around. As you begin to change your words, your inner world starts to shift. Your thinking begins to adjust. Your expectations begin to rise. Your perspective begins to open. Words have the ability to lead your belief system if you are consistent with them. This is why awareness is so important. You must become conscious of your everyday language, not just the words you speak in serious moments, but the phrases you repeat without thinking, the offhand comments, the reactions under pressure, the statements made in frustration. Those are the moments that reveal your true confession. And those are the moments that carry the most influence because they are unfiltered and repeated often. When pressure comes, most people default to what they have been saying all along. If their language has been filled with doubt, they will speak doubt. If their language has been filled with fear, they will speak fear. But if they have trained themselves to speak strength, even under pressure, something different happens. They respond with intention instead of reaction. They choose words that support where they want to go instead of words that describe where they are. You are never just describing your situation. You are also defining it. And over time, what you consistently define, you begin to experience more deeply. That is why changing your words is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is about refusing to give voice to what you do not want to grow. It is about choosing language that leads you forward instead of holding you in place. You must understand that it is not only the words you speak in moments of strength that matter, but the words that come out when pressure rises, when circumstances don't make sense, and when emotions are at their highest. Anyone can speak positively when everything is going well. But true confession is revealed in the moments when life feels uncertain. Those are the moments that expose what has truly been established within you. When something unexpected happens, your first response is not random. It is the result of what you have been consistently allowing in your heart and mind. When pressure builds, many people begin to say things like, "I knew this would happen," or "Nothing ever goes right for me," or "This is too much for me to handle." These words may feel justified in the moment, but they are not harmless. They are agreements with defeat. They reinforce the very outcome you are trying to avoid. Instead of resisting the situation, you begin to align with it through your words. What you say under pressure either strengthens your position or weakens it. It is easy to think that one negative statement does not matter, but it is rarely just one. It becomes a pattern, and patterns create direction. When you repeatedly respond to challenges with the same negative language, you are training yourself to expect negative outcomes. Your mind begins to anticipate failure. Your emotions begin to follow that expectation. Your actions begin to reflect it, and before long, what started as a reaction becomes a cycle that feels difficult to break. You must learn to pause and take authority over your first response. There is power in choosing your words, especially when everything inside you wants to react. The moment you feel pressure is the moment you must become intentional. Instead of saying what feels natural, you begin to say what is necessary. Instead of agreeing with fear, you choose to speak stability. Instead of declaring defeat, you speak endurance. This is not about ignoring reality, but about refusing to let reality dictate your confession. There is a discipline required in this. It does not happen automatically. Your natural tendencies will try to pull you back into old patterns of speech. Your environment may even reinforce those patterns. People around you may speak negatively, complain, or expect the worst. If you are not careful, you will begin to echo the same language. But you must decide that your words are not determined by your surroundings. Your confession must come from a place of intention, not imitation. As you begin to control your words under pressure, something begins to change within you. You start to feel a sense of stability that is not dependent on circumstances. Your reactions become more measured. Your thoughts become more focused. You begin to carry a different kind of confidence, not because everything is perfect, but because you are no longer allowing your words to work against you. This is where strength is developed, not in the absence of challenges, but in the way you respond to them. Every pressured moment becomes an opportunity to reinforce a new pattern. Every situation becomes a chance to choose words that align with where you are going instead of where you are standing. Over time, those intentional choices begin to replace old habits, and your default response begins to change. What once felt difficult starts to become natural. What once required effort begins to flow with consistency. And the same situations that used to pull negative words out of you no longer have the same influence, because you have trained yourself to respond differently, to speak differently, and to align your words with strength instead of surrender. There are certain words that should never be given a permanent place in your vocabulary because of the weight they carry and the direction they enforce in your life. Words like impossible, never, always, and nothing works for me may seem like simple expressions, but they are absolute in nature. They leave no room for change, no space for growth, and no expectation for improvement. The moment you begin to speak in absolutes, you close the door on possibility and lock yourself into a fixed outcome that may not even be true. When you say, "This will never change," you are not just describing your current situation, you are declaring its future. You are setting a boundary with your own words and deciding that nothing beyond this point is available to you. In the same way, when you say, "I always fail," you are reinforcing an identity that becomes harder to break with every repetition. These words shape not only how you see your circumstances, but how you see yourself. And once something becomes part of your identity, it begins to influence your decisions, your confidence, and your willingness to try again. Many people fall into the habit of using these words without realizing their impact. They speak out of frustration, disappointment, or fatigue, and in those moments, they reach for the strongest language they can find to express how they feel. But strong language, when used carelessly, creates strong limitations. What begins as an emotional reaction becomes a spoken pattern, and that pattern begins to define the boundaries of their life. You must learn to replace these absolute statements with words that allow room for movement and change. Instead of saying, "Nothing ever works for me," you begin to say, "Things are shifting in my favor." Instead of declaring, "This is impossible," you say, "There is a way, even if I don't see it yet." These may seem like small adjustments, but they create a completely different direction. One shuts the door, the other leaves it open. One enforces limitation, the other invites possibility. It is important to understand that your mind responds to the language you consistently use. When you speak in terms of impossibility, your mind stops searching for solutions. It accepts the limitation as final. But when you speak in terms of possibility, your mind begins to look for answers. It becomes active, engaged, and open to new ideas. Your words either activate your potential or suppress it. There is also a long-term effect to consider. The words you repeat over time become beliefs, and those beliefs become expectations. If you constantly say that nothing works for you, you will eventually expect failure before you even begin. That expectation will influence your effort, your attitude, and your persistence. But if you begin to speak in a way that supports growth and progress, your expectations begin to shift. You start to anticipate improvement. You begin to approach situations with a different mindset. You are not just speaking about your life. You are shaping the framework through which your life operates. Every word contributes to that framework. Every statement either strengthens it or weakens it. And when you become intentional about removing limiting language, you begin to dismantle the barriers that those words have built over time. Many people believe they are simply being honest when they speak negatively about their situation, but there is a difference between acknowledging a challenge and agreeing with it. Honesty does not require you to reinforce what is wrong. You can recognize what you are facing without giving it authority through your words. The problem arises when people begin to constantly describe their struggles in a way that strengthens them, repeating the same phrases again and again until those words take root in their thinking and shape their expectations. When you continually say, "I feel weak, I'm overwhelmed," or "this is too much," you may think you are just expressing how things are, but you are also reinforcing those conditions within yourself. Your words begin to echo in your mind long after they are spoken. They influence how you interpret situations, how you respond to pressure, and how much strength you believe you have. Over time, you start to live in agreement with the very things you have been saying, not because they are permanent, but because they have been consistently declared. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable indicators of direction. They change quickly, often influenced by circumstances, environment, and even physical condition. If your words are always aligned with how you feel in the moment, your life will lack stability. One day you will speak with confidence, the next day with doubt, and the inconsistency will keep you from building any solid foundation. But when you learn to speak beyond your feelings, you begin to establish something deeper than emotion. You establish direction. Speaking beyond your feelings requires intention. It means you choose your words carefully, even when your emotions are pulling you in a different direction. Instead of saying, "I can't handle this," you begin to say, "I am stronger than this moment." Instead of repeating, "I'm overwhelmed," you say, "I am learning to navigate this with clarity." These are not empty statements. They are deliberate choices that begin to reshape how you think and respond. There is a strengthening that happens when your words are no longer controlled by your emotions. You begin to feel a sense of authority over your own mindset. Situations that once triggered immediate negative reactions start to lose their power, because you are no longer feeding them with reinforcing language. You are interrupting the cycle. You are choosing not to give voice to what you do not want to continue. This does not mean you ignore problems or pretend they do not exist. It means you refuse to magnify them with your speech. You refuse to make them larger through repetition. You shift your focus from describing the problem to directing your response. And that shift, though it may seem small at first, creates a significant impact over time. As you practice this, you begin to notice that your internal dialogue changes as well. The same words you speak outwardly begin to shape what you say inwardly. Your thoughts become more steady, more focused, and more aligned with progress. You begin to carry a different kind of mindset, one that is not easily shaken by temporary circumstances because it is rooted in intentional, consistent language that supports where you are going rather than what you are going through.